20 years ago, almost nobody believed in NVIDIA. Investors doubted it. Rivals dismissed it. Even inside the company, there were nights when the founders weren't sure they'd survive the month. Today, NVIDIA is worth more than almost any company that has ever existed. But here's the real question. How did a company that started out making graphics cards for video games end up powering the biggest technological shift of our lifetime? The answer isn't luck. It's not even really about chips. It's about a decision made decades ago when nobody else was paying attention. Rewind to 1993. Personal computers are clunky. The internet barely exists, and inside a Denny's diner in San Jose, 3 engineers are sketching an idea on a napkin. Their names are Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Preem. None of them are wealthy. None of them have built a company before. What they have is a belief that computer graphics are about to matter a lot more than anyone realizes. They call the company NVIDIA. The name comes from NVIDIA, the Latin word for envy. A bold choice for 3 guys with no customers and barely any funding. And almost immediately, things go wrong. Their first major product is a disaster. It uses an unusual technology that developers don't want to support. Orders dry up. The company burns through cash. At one point, NVIDIA has less than a month of payroll left. Bigger, better funded competitors are circling. Investors are losing faith. By every normal rule of business, NVIDIA should have quietly disappeared. Another failed startup lost to history. But Jensen Huang makes a decision that keeps the company alive just long enough to try again. And that second chance would lead to an invention that didn't just save the company. It would eventually reshape the entire tech industry. To understand what NVIDIA built, you need to understand a simple difference. A regular computer processor, a CPU, is like one incredibly smart worker. It solves problems one at a time, extremely well, but one at a time. NVIDIA had a different idea. What if, instead of one brilliant worker, you had thousands of workers, each solving a small piece of the same problem all at once? That's essentially what a GPU is, a graphics processing unit. Instead of doing one task at a time, it does thousands of small tasks in parallel. For video games, this was revolutionary. Suddenly, screens could render lifelike explosions, detailed characters, entire 3D worlds, all in real time. NVIDIA's GeForce graphics cards became the gold standard for gamers. Revenue climbed. The company that almost didn't survive its first year was now a serious player. But then, in 2006, NVIDIA made a decision that had nothing to do with gaming, and almost nobody understood it at the time. They released something called CUDA. It let regular programmers use those thousands of tiny workers inside a GPU for tasks that had nothing to do with graphics at all. Scientific research, simulations, complex math. At the time, this looked like a strange distraction. Wall Street didn't care, gamers didn't care, because nobody yet knew that somewhere else, in university labs, a completely different kind of scientist was about to discover exactly what NVIDIA had quietly built. Gaming had made NVIDIA successful, but gaming was never going to make NVIDIA the most valuable company on earth. In the early 2000s, a small group of researchers were experimenting with something called deep learning. It's a way of training computers to recognize patterns, almost like a digital brain built from layers of simple math. The problem was, training these systems required enormous amounts of repeated calculation. Traditional processors were painfully slow at it. Then researchers discovered something. Those thousands of tiny parallel workers inside NVIDIA's gaming chips, they were perfect for training neural networks. Suddenly, tasks that used to take weeks would be done in days. CUDA, the tool nobody understood back in 2006, was now the only serious way to build powerful AI systems. Jensen Huang saw where this was heading before almost anyone else. NVIDIA didn't just sell chips to these researchers. The company reshaped its entire strategy around artificial intelligence, years before most of the world had even heard the term. When OpenAI needed massive computing power to train its models, NVIDIA chips were already the standard. When ChatGPT launched in late 2022 and stunned the world, it was running on the foundation NVIDIA had spent over a decade quietly building. This wasn't luck. While the rest of the tech world was chasing smartphones and social apps, NVIDIA had already built the one thing the AI revolution couldn't happen without. And once the world realized what artificial intelligence could actually do, demand for NVIDIA's chips didn't just grow. it exploded. Every major tech company suddenly needed the same thing: massive computing power to build and run AI systems. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, OpenAI. All of them needed thousands of NVIDIA's most advanced chips, and they needed them immediately. Demand outpaced supply so dramatically that companies were placing orders worth billions of dollars, sometimes without knowing exactly when the chips would arrive. NVIDIA's revenue didn't just grow, it multiplied. Quarter after quarter, the company kept shattering its own records, and Wall Street took notice. In 2023, NVIDIA crossed the $1 trillion mark in value. By mid-2024, it had passed $3 trillion, overtaking Apple and Microsoft to become the most valuable public company in the world. By 2026, its value had climbed even further, past $4 and at times past $5 trillion. Why did investors become so obsessed? Because NVIDIA wasn't just selling hardware, it was selling the ability to build the future. Every company racing to develop artificial intelligence needed NVIDIA to get there. That gave NVIDIA something almost no company ever has, a product the entire industry depends on, with very few alternatives available. That kind of demand doesn't just move a stock price, it changes how the entire market thinks about a company's future. But being on top comes with its own danger, because when you're the most valuable company on earth, everyone else starts trying to take your place. Competition is closing in. AMD is building rival AI chips. Intel is trying to reclaim relevance. And some of NVIDIA's biggest customers, including Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, are quietly designing their own custom AI chips, hoping to rely less on NVIDIA in the future. There are also bigger risks. Export regulations, especially around China, could limit where NVIDIA is allowed to sell its most advanced technology. Global politics is now directly tied to the future of a chip company. At the same time, new opportunities keep appearing: robotics, self-driving vehicles, AI agents that can act on their own. NVIDIA is positioning itself at the center of all of it, not just as a chip maker, but as the infrastructure the next era of technology will run on. So why did NVIDIA really become the world's most valuable company? It wasn't because they made the best graphics cards. It was because decades before anyone else understood what was coming, 3 engineers in a diner booth started building the foundation of a revolution. 20 years ago, NVIDIA helped people play better video games. Today, it helps machines think. And if artificial intelligence truly becomes the next industrial revolution, history may not remember NVIDIA as a chip company at all. It may remember it as the company that quietly built the foundation of the future. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Why Mint for more videos explaining the hidden reasons behind the world's biggest companies, technologies, and ideas.